Imagine waking up one day, looking in the mirror, and realizing that the person you see is not truly you. What if the reflection staring back at you is not the real you, but a collection of carefully crafted masks designed to please others? The roles you've played, the smiles you've faked, the voice you've silenced, were they your choices, or were they shaped by the expectations of your family, your friends, your culture? The reality can be haunting. Much of your life has been a performance to gain approval and avoid rejection. Every decision, every action may have been influenced by the need to be accepted, loved, or valued, not for who you truly are, but for who others want you to be. How often have you made sacrifices, compromised your truth, or suppressed your desires simply to avoid disapproval? How many of your dreams are actually yours, and how many are borrowed from the narratives others wrote for you? These are the questions we must confront, and they are not easy, but it is essential to ask them, because the cost of living this way is steep, and the price we pay is not just psychological, it's spiritual. It costs us the freedom to be ourselves. In this video, we are going to confront the harsh truths that Carl Jung uncovered about people-pleasing. What happens when we betray ourselves for the sake of others? Jung's insights, often brutal, provide a clear mirror to the patterns that govern the lives of millions, patterns that are quiet, almost invisible, yet profoundly destructive. We will dive into 3 revelations, each one more piercing than the last. And the final revelation has the power to change how you see yourself, your relationships, and your purpose. It's not just advice, it's a wake-up call. Stay with us, because this journey might be uncomfortable, but on the other side, there's freedom, truth, and the chance for a truly authentic life. If you're drawn to the teachings of great thinkers and seek to uncover the hidden layers of human behavior, you are in the right place. Carl Jung was not known for softening the truth. In his writings and speeches, he told it as it was, especially when it came to the topic of people-pleasing. Jung's message to those who chronically seek to please others was both direct and unsettling. You are not kind, you are in bondage. These words may sound harsh, but they were rooted in a deep psychological truth. Jung understood that the behaviors we often mistake for kindness or generosity are not born out of love, but out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of being abandoned. These fears drive us to adopt roles that aren't authentic, but are simply survival strategies. We have all met people who seem to be always giving, always available, always kind. The nice one, the reliable one, the one who's always there for everyone. But underneath these roles lies a silent scream. These people aren't fully themselves. They are playing a part, often without even realizing it. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear in social situations. While the persona helps us navigate society and function within it, the danger arises when we forget that it is just that, a mask. When we become too identified with our persona, when we start believing that this mask is who we truly are, we begin to lose touch with the core of our being. We smile when we're breaking inside. We say yes when we desperately want to say no. We become everything to everyone and nothing to ourselves. This is the self-betrayal Jung spoke of, and it is more common than you might think. The journey of people-pleasing begins early in life. As children, we are taught that love is conditional, that approval comes only when we meet the expectations of those around us. This is where the roots of our masks are planted. We learn quickly that certain behaviors will earn us love, attention, and acceptance, while others will lead to rejection. As we grow, we become increasingly attuned to the moods and judgments of those around us. We internalize their expectations, subconsciously learning to suppress parts of ourselves that might not be acceptable. We learn to hide our anger, our desires, our ambitions, even our joy, because these things make others uncomfortable. This is where Jung's concept of the shadow comes into play. The parts of ourselves that we exile, the parts that we judge as unacceptable or unworthy. The more we try to please others, the more we lose touch with our true selves. We become so attuned to the needs of others that we forget to honor our own. And this is the tragic paradox. The more we try to earn love through pleasing, the more disconnected we become from the kind of love that truly nourishes us. People may like us, but they don't really know us. And deep down, we know it too. The masks we wear prevent intimacy, creating a vast chasm between who we appear to be and who we truly are. Jung's brutal insight is that the most terrifying thing is not rejection, but the loss of ourselves in the process of pleasing others. To face your authentic self requires confronting the parts of you that have been buried for years, the parts you were told were too much, too loud, too needy, too selfish. But these parts are not your enemies. They are your wholeness, waiting to be reclaimed. What is the shadow, and how does it impact our lives? According to Jung, the shadow consists of all the parts of ourselves that we have repressed, the parts that we deem unacceptable or unworthy. These are the parts we push into the darkness, the parts we deny or refuse to acknowledge. But the shadow never truly disappears. It lurks beneath the surface, exerting influence over our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we may not even recognize. When we constantly suppress parts of ourselves to please others, we not only lose touch with our true identity, but we also create a psychological imbalance. We begin to live a divided life, one where the mask we show the world is not aligned with the parts of us that remain hidden in the shadow. The longer we repress these parts, the more they begin to shape our lives in unhealthy ways. The result is often an inner tension, a quiet suffering that most people aren't even aware of until it manifests as anxiety, depression, or burnout. The shadow, however, does not remain dormant forever. Jung believed that when we ignore or repress these parts of ourselves, they begin to surface in unexpected ways. Our anger, our desires, and our instincts. Those parts we tried so hard to control begin to express themselves through passive-aggressive behavior, emotional outbursts, and even illness. The more we try to avoid them, the more powerful they become. And this is where the work of self-integration begins. We must confront the shadow, embrace the parts of ourselves we have denied, and bring them into the light. In his exploration of people-pleasing, Jung revealed a paradox that many of us are unaware of. The more we try to please others, the more we disconnect from true intimacy. We may think we are earning love, but in reality, we are creating distance from the very people we seek to connect with. This is because the more we wear the mask of the nice person, the more we hide our true selves from others. True intimacy is only possible when we are authentic, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to show up as we truly are. But when we are constantly performing, when we are always trying to be the person others want us to be, we lose the ability to form deep, meaningful connections. How could anyone love us for who we truly are if we have never shown them the real us? This is where Jung's insight hits hardest. The more we try to earn love through pleasing others, the more isolated we become. People may like the persona we present to the world, but they will never truly know us. And deep down, we know this. We may be surrounded by people, but we still feel alone. The longing for real connection, for someone to see us for who we truly are, grows ever stronger. The idea of living authentically is enticing, yet terrifying. Carl Jung's writings reveal that the most profound fear for many people is not rejection, it's the terror of truly facing themselves. The masks we wear, the personas we adopt to survive, shield us from the rawness of who we truly are. And as comforting as these masks may feel, they also imprison us, locking us into a false sense of security. The core of authenticity is not just about speaking our truth in the moment. It's about confronting the truths we've hidden from ourselves for years. It's about facing the parts of ourselves we've been taught to suppress, the anger we've been told is too much, the desires we've been conditioned to hide, the fears we've buried so deeply that we can no longer even recognize them. Jung argued that authenticity requires us to step into our discomfort. It's about embracing the parts of ourselves we've rejected, the parts that were too loud, too needy, or too selfish in the eyes of society. But these parts are not your enemies. In fact, they are the pieces that complete you, the pieces that, once accepted, lead you to wholeness. The fear of authenticity is a fear of death, not the physical death, but the death of the personas we've relied on for so long. Letting go of the masks can feel like dying, and for many, it's more terrifying than the rejection of others. Yet, paradoxically, it is through this process of death that we experience the most profound form of rebirth. When we bury parts of ourselves, whether through cultural conditioning, family expectations, or the desire to fit in, we create a psychological split. On the surface, we present a version of ourselves that is socially acceptable, but deep down, our shadow remains. And as Jung pointed out, the shadow doesn't simply vanish, it festers, growing more powerful as we ignore it. Over time, this repression takes its toll. The more we suppress the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable, whether it's our anger, our desire for power, or our sexual needs, the more it affects our psychological well-being. Jung believed that we cannot achieve true mental health unless we integrate the shadow, bring the repressed parts of ourselves into the light of awareness. This process is not easy. Many people live their entire lives without confronting their shadow, leading to a life of frustration, anxiety, and unresolved internal conflict. But those who choose to face it, who allow themselves to feel and express the emotions they've hidden, experience a kind of liberation. By accepting and integrating these hidden parts, we heal the split within us and move towards psychological wholeness. When we acknowledge the shadow, we stop being at war with ourselves. We stop believing that certain parts of us are bad or wrong, and we start embracing the fullness of our humanity. This is the path to true self-acceptance, and it is essential for anyone seeking personal growth or a deeper sense of peace. For Carl Jung, the process of becoming whole, or individuation, was central to human development. He viewed it as the journey of reclaiming all parts of the self, including the shadow, and integrating them into a harmonious whole. This is not a process that happens overnight. It requires tremendous courage, and it is often fraught with discomfort and fear. The individuation process is about stepping away from the roles and masks we've adopted throughout our lives and embracing the truth of who we really are beneath the surface. It's about shedding the expectations of others and rediscovering the parts of ourselves that have been buried for so long. This process is not linear, and it doesn't come without its challenges. It's painful, and it's uncomfortable, but it is also the only path to true freedom. Jung believed that individuation was essential for psychological health. Without it, we remain fragmented, stuck between the persona we show the world and the shadow we refuse to face. But once we begin the process of individuation, we embark on a journey toward true self-awareness, self-acceptance, and inner peace. The courage to undertake this journey comes from a deep understanding that our true self is not a product of external validation or approval. It is a deep, intrinsic part of who we are. To find this self, we must venture into the unknown territories of our own psyche and face the parts of us that we've feared for so long. Saying no can feel like an act of rebellion, especially when we've spent our lives trying to please others. But Carl Jung's work teaches us that setting boundaries is a necessary act of self-liberation. For too long, we've been conditioned to believe that saying no makes us selfish, that to be a good person, we must always put others' needs first. The truth, however, is that boundaries are not just a form of self-care, they are essential for personal growth. Without boundaries, we cannot truly honor our needs or our truth. Without boundaries, we remain slaves to the demands of others, forever living in a state of self-betrayal. The process of setting boundaries is not easy. It feels uncomfortable at first, especially when we've been conditioned to be people pleasers. We may feel guilt, doubt, and fear as we begin to say no to others and yes to ourselves. But with time, this discomfort fades, and what remains is the clarity and strength that comes from living authentically. Jung's message is clear. True freedom comes not from pleasing others, but from standing firm in our own truth. When we begin to set boundaries, we take the first step toward reclaiming our personal power and embracing the life we are meant to live. Letting go of the mask is not an easy task. For many of us, the mask has become our identity. It has kept us safe. It has helped us belong, and it has shielded us from the harsh judgments of the world. But as Carl Jung understood, living behind the mask comes at a profound cost. The more we rely on the mask, the more we distance ourselves from who we truly are. And in the end, this self-imposed distance leads to feelings of emptiness and alienation. Letting go of the mask is a form of psychological death. It requires us to confront the versions of ourselves that we've outgrown, to shed the roles that no longer serve us. This can be a painful process. The personas we've created were often essential for our survival, particularly in childhood, when we needed to win approval to feel loved. But the time comes when we must ask ourselves, are these roles still serving us, or are they keeping us trapped? Jung's work teaches us that in order to move toward wholeness, we must be willing to let go of these false identities. The pain of rejection, of not fitting into the roles we once played so well, is part of the transformation. It's the necessary price of authenticity. The cost of rejection is not the loss of others' approval, it is the loss of the false self that has kept us locked in a state of fear and performance. And when we let go of the mask, we begin to step into the fullness of who we truly are. The death of the good girl or the nice guy is an essential stage in the journey toward individuation. This isn't about becoming selfish, nor is it about rejecting kindness altogether. It's about rejecting the mask that was created for survival and societal acceptance. Jung believed that the role of the good or nice person is not a true representation of who we are, but rather a role we assume to avoid conflict, to gain approval, and to feel loved. The persona of the good person is often rooted in the fear of rejection, in the desire to be liked, and in the belief that self-worth is tied to the validation of others. But the price of wearing this mask is steep. We become so focused on being agreeable and pleasing that we forget who we really are, what we truly want, and what we stand for. Jung's insight is profound. We must allow the death of this false persona, the death of the version of ourselves that has been molded to fit society's expectations. Letting go of the good role isn't easy. It can feel like a death, especially when that role has provided us with safety and belonging. But this transformation is necessary for our psychological health and for the reclamation of our true selves. It's not about becoming a bad person. It's about becoming a whole person, one who honors their needs, desires, and boundaries. Jung emphasized that the death of the nice person is not a tragic event. It is a beautiful, liberating act. It opens the door to authenticity, to living in alignment with our true nature, and to experiencing life in its fullest, most meaningful form. People-pleasing is often misunderstood as a virtuous behavior. We think of it as kindness, generosity, or selflessness. But Jung reveals that people-pleasing is not about virtue, it's about survival. We have learned to please others because, in doing so, we gain love, approval, and safety. In essence, pleasing others becomes a strategy to avoid the pain of rejection and abandonment. But this survival mechanism, as Jung points out, comes with a hidden cost. It disconnects us from our true selves. When we adapt to meet the expectations of others, we lose sight of who we really are. We become so preoccupied with fitting in, with being the good person, that we forget what it means to be authentic. Jung's work challenges the idea that adaptation is a virtue. He warns that the most common form of despair is not being true to oneself. We adapt to survive, but in doing so, we lose our sense of direction, our sense of purpose, and our sense of self. This adaptation leads to an internal conflict, a split between the persona we present to the world and the true self that remains hidden beneath the surface. To move beyond this adaptation, we must confront the truth. Pleasing others is a form of self-betrayal. We must stop adjusting ourselves to fit into predefined roles and start living from a place of authenticity. This means embracing the discomfort of being misunderstood, the discomfort of not always being liked, and the discomfort of standing firm in our truth. When we live a life of self-betrayal, constantly suppressing our true desires and needs to please others, the body begins to protest. Jung's psychology teaches us that the body does not forget the psychological strain we place on it. Our minds may try to suppress or deny our authentic selves, but the body will find a way to express this rebellion. It may manifest as anxiety, depression, fatigue, burnout, or physical illness. These are not random disorders. They are the soul's attempt to wake us up to the reality of our inauthenticity. Jung understood that the body is not separate from the psyche, it is a reflection of our inner state. When we live out of alignment with our true selves, the body begins to exhibit signs of distress. It is as if the body is calling out, demanding that we pay attention to the parts of ourselves we've ignored for so long. Burnout and anxiety are not simply external stressors. They are symptoms of a deeper internal conflict. The more we suppress our true self, the more the body will rebel against the psychological strain. Jung saw these physical manifestations not as something to be feared, but as signals to turn inward, to confront the self we've been avoiding. The soul's rebellion is an invitation to awaken, to reclaim the parts of ourselves that have been suppressed, and to restore balance between mind, body, and spirit. The body's protests are not accursed, they are a call to return to authenticity. The idea of power has long been misunderstood. Many equate power with control, dominance, or the ability to manipulate others. But Jung's concept of real power is far different. For Jung, true power is not about controlling others. It is about standing in your truth, even when it is inconvenient. It is about having the courage to be authentic, even when it costs you approval, even when it disrupts the status quo. True power comes from self-respect, from the ability to protect your peace and honor your boundaries. It is the power to be yourself, regardless of how others react. This is a radically different form of power than what society often teaches. In a world that values conformity and people-pleasing, Standing firm in your truth is an act of rebellion. Jung's work teaches us that real power is rooted in authenticity. When we stand in our truth, we stop seeking validation from others, and instead, we radiate confidence and clarity. This power is not aggressive or forceful. It is calm, steady, and unshakable. It allows us to navigate the world without fear of rejection or judgment. True power, according to Jung, is the ability to protect your inner peace, to maintain your boundaries, and to remain grounded in your truth, even when others may try to tear you down. This is the kind of power that comes from within, and it is the only kind of power that is truly lasting. Living authentically is a radical act of liberation. When we finally let go of the masks we've been wearing, when we stop performing for others and begin to live from our truth, we experience a freedom that is unlike anything we've known. This freedom is not just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to ourselves, to our own needs, desires, and truth. Jung's work reveals that we are not here to perform, to win approval, or to be liked. We are here to live, to love, and to be fully ourselves. When we live authentically, we stop chasing approval and start attracting real connection. We stop trying to be perfect, and we begin to embrace our imperfections as part of who we are. The freedom that comes with authenticity is not just about personal fulfillment, it also transforms our relationships. When we stop hiding behind masks, we give others permission to do the same. We create deeper, more meaningful connections based on truth rather than performance. Jung's final insight is that authenticity is the key to healing, not just for ourselves, but for the world. By embracing our true selves, we heal the wounds we've carried for so long, and we inspire others to do the same. The ripple effect of this transformation is profound. Imagine a world where people no longer wear masks to be loved, where relationships are rooted in honesty and self-respect, and where each person's authenticity creates a space for others to be real as well. Jung's most profound insight about people-pleasing and self-acceptance is that the healing we seek is already inside of us. The person we are truly seeking, our authentic self, is not something we need to create, it is something we need to uncover. The journey toward authenticity is not about becoming someone new, it's about returning to the self we've always been, beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. Self-acceptance is not passive, it is an act of revolution. In a world that profits from our self-doubt and insecurity, learning to accept ourselves' flaws and allies, an act of defiance. When we embrace our true selves, we stop seeking validation from others, and instead, we begin to generate our own sense of worth from within. This is not an easy journey, but it is the most important one. Jung's work teaches us that when we fully accept ourselves, we heal not just ourselves, but the world around us. By being authentic, we give others permission to be real too. And in doing so, we create a world where love, connection, and authenticity are no longer rare, they are the norm. The final insight is this: the more we uncover our true selves, the more alive we feel. We stop chasing happiness, and we start generating it from within. When we stop pleasing others and start living from our truth, something extraordinary happens. We no longer need to perform. We become the presence we've always longed for. As we come to the end of this journey, we must ask ourselves, who are we when no one is watching? Who are we when we stop performing? When we stop trying to please others, and when we begin to live from our truth? The path to authenticity is not easy, but it is the path that leads to freedom, joy, and connection. Jung's message is clear. You were not born to perform. You were born to live, to love, and to be fully yourself. The false self, the mask you've been wearing, was never who you truly were. And now, it's time to remember who you really are. The journey is not over. Every time you set a boundary, every time you honor your truth, you move closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. And in that journey, you will not only heal yourself, you will heal the world.